Introduction. As John said, my name's Ian Anderson from Coventry University, but I'm actually really here today probably as the representative of the UCISA. I lead the UCISA EA community of practice. I'm going to start off by saying that when I come to CSIG, and I've only been twice, and I know now it's a combined conference, I don't seem to have a whole lot of luck. For those who remember, I turned up last year at the Fairmont in St Andrews, and I'd flown in from America, and I arrived, but my luggage didn't, and what was delivered to Sue Fowles was this sweaty, 20-stone, 6'4" guy who was on the verge of tears, to be honest with you. And I have to say, she really looked after me, and that was fantastic. I turned up today, and let's be honest, none of us say this, but when you're giving a presentation, you sort of want the people that go for you to be a bit rubbish, and they weren't, a bit disappointing. And this is a true story. This happened to me yesterday. I arrived here at the Grand. I walked through the door, I went to the UCISA desk, and I registered. The lady said, if you go into, the rooms aren't ready, but if you go and see the lady, if you go and see the next lady, she'll tell you what you can do with your luggage. There was a form to fill in. So I filled that form in. You all did it. She said, right, here's your room number. Take your luggage to the porter over there, and he will store it for you until later. I handed the porter my card. He looked at it, and I swear to you, this is what he said to me. Room 320. You would have been killed in the bombing. That happened to me. I'm just going to say, Grand Hotel, if that is still your USP, then you guys really need to work on your marketing. And then Stephen, I travel a lot, Stephen told me that there's a good chance that I'm going to be crushed to death in a Coca-Cola can as well. It's not been a good day. So, the one thing so I spoke last time at the CISG. I think Mark Ritchie said the other day that he is presenting on Friday morning, the graveyard shift. Oh no, that is not the graveyard shift. Last year, I was the last presenter on the Friday afternoon. This was a desolate wasteland. The only round of applause I got at the end was from the two trainee foreign waiters serving coffee at the back of the room. Yeah? To be fair, they did say it was at least the third best presentation they'd ever seen on enterprise architecture. Reported them to the Home Office. It was the only thing to do. You've got to be fair. You've got to treat everybody the same. So, the one thing I can say about my presentation, I think it's the only one that's been crowdsourced. When Gareth McAleese spoke to me and said, can you do a presentation on enterprise architecture? I said, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. But I'm going to ask the community what they want me to talk about. So I went out to the EA community, and I pretty much knew what they were going to say. One or two of them came back to me across the whole forum. Quite a lot of them came back to me privately and said, really, we need a hand. We need a foot up. We need to try and sell enterprise architecture and in some way the whole enterprise, the whole architecture thing to the rest of the community. So that's what I'm here to try and do today. I'm going to tell you why I think enterprise architecture is very, very important. It sits across both our functions, CISG-PCMG. I'm going to demonstrate that a little bit about what we're doing at Coventry. The first thing I need to say is that we are not the best people at doing enterprise architecture. To a certain degree, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. I ended up in this role because the other thing that happened to me last year at CISG is the person that founded the community of practice, Luke Taylor, I don't think he's here from Bristol, said to me, Ian, I've been doing this job for now 3 years. I think it's about time somebody else should do it, and I think you're the person. At least I think that's what he said as he ran out the door waving at me over his shoulder. So that's what I'm here to do today. And then I'm going to put a proposal to you about how we might take EA forward. Because we are IT people, I know how much we like audience participation. Does anybody know who this chap is? PCMG people? Taylor? No, you're just randomly shouting out names. No, it's not my dad either. No, this guy is Kurt Lewin. Most of you will have heard of Kurt Lewin because he came up with Lewin's change model. It's a great one. unfreeze, change and refreeze. I don't care whether you do TOGAF or you do continual service improvement, whatever your choice of change methodology is, at some point you are doing this. He got the basic right. I think we can accept that. At this point, I should point out that I absolutely knew in what direction I wanted this presentation to go in. So I've made my point here. I wanted to make another point. So I've got in mind the phrase that I want to use, so I Googled that phrase. I have to say, I was a bit disappointed when I found out the person that said it was this guy. It wasn't Taylor. Does anybody know who this is? Aristotle. You shouted that out because you know two Greek men, and you know it's not Demis Roussos. Isn't it? Okay. No, this is the most inappropriately named Greek philosopher of all time. I'm going to say it once, we're going to move on. This is Heraclitus. You need to grow up a little bit, okay? So, what did this guy say? Stop laughing. Change is the only constant in life. There's the equation. This is something we do all the time. Change is a constant, we unfreeze, we change, we refreeze. To manage that, I will argue the point today that to do it, we need to be absolutely situationally aware. We need to understand how and the environment we are operating in. Let me give you an example. I'm going to use an Alpine example because for reasons unknown to me, that when people come to describe the HE sector at the moment, they seem to use Alpine examples, and I'll prove that research to you in a moment. If I'm standing here and there is an avalanche approaching from behind, I have a choice. I can step to my right and I can step into the river, I can step to the left into the road. Before I step into the river, I'm probably going to want to know how deep that river is and how fast it's flowing. I might want to know that actually, because it's quite shallow, but I need to know at 4 o'clock they release the dam, and this shallow river becomes a very deep river. I could avoid this avalanche by stepping to my left into the road. I might get lucky and step into the M25. That road goes nowhere. I won't be killed. That'll be fine. I could be stepping into a road that is Silverstone in the middle of the Formula 1 Grand Prix. I'm a fairly big bloke. I've got the turning circle of a supertanker. I am not going to be able to avoid one of those cars. And maybe one of those roads that has a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit. Again, I'm a big bloke. I think I could survive that. It may be that I stay here, and they talk about this as an avalanche, but it's actually only a flurry. It might knock me up from my knees, but I'll get up again. But to make that decision, I need to be absolutely situationally aware. Change is a constant. This is my research. This is why I use the Alpine Analogy. Professor Clayton Christian from Harvard Business School told us, I think higher education is just on the edge of the crevasse. Generally, universities are doing very well financially, so they don't feel from their data, that's an interesting one, that their world is going to collapse. But I think 5 years from now, these enterprises are going to be in real trouble. He goes on to say in Wired magazine, something that I think was expressed better in that document that many of us will have read a couple of years ago. The avalanche is coming, Alpine Analogy. If you've not read it, my advice is it's a good document. Go and read it. But basically, Barbara and his colleagues were telling us there is a real need for universities to understand that the traditional stand and deliver approach to HE is under attack from all sides, e.g. advances in technology, new entrants into the sector, ease and pace of student mobility, etc. Is that a model that we all accept? Absolutely it is. So we know that change is a constant, much more than it was previously. We know that we are going to have to go through phases of unfreeze, change, refreeze. I know this from my own institution. If I look back over a decade, John talked on the journey that Coventry University has been on. That's been explained at this conference and others previously. In 2006, we were single site. We are now multi-site. Why are we multi-site? Because we were a university. We're now university in colleges. We have a college in Coventry. We have a college in Scarborough. We have another one coming online shortly. We have a large campus now in London. We are UK-based. Not anymore, we're not. We work all over the world. We all work globally. We did little research because we weren't one of those red brick universities, but we now recognise that if we want to progress further as a university, this is an area that we need to buy into. So we're doing increasing amounts of research. The systems that we had in 2006 did not fit this model any longer. Okay? Universities mainly run on 3 admin systems: the finance system, the HR system, the student record system. Coventry's just gone through a process of changing its finance system. We have just started a process of reviewing our student record system and making changes, and VC has announced that he would like to change the HR system as well. This is something you're all familiar with. So in terms of what we're going to do at Coventry University, 20 years ago we built our own system because we looked at the market and we didn't like what was out there. We've gone back and looked at the market again. What's surprising is it's actually, you're still fishing in exactly the same pool. What will these people sell us, these ERP sellers? They will sell us this black box that will contain services in it. These services will allow us to enroll students and do graduation and student financing and curriculum management. They will charge us a huge amount of money to buy this system. They will then charge us a huge amount of money to customize it, and they will charge us a huge amount of money to maintain it. And we say, okay, we sort of get that, but we have a college and that's got a different model. And they say, yes, we can meet that, and we will meet that by selling you another version of our system. You recognize this. We don't want to do that. We think the future is this. We talked about this last year. We have, within our system, things that we think give us business advantage. So why do we want to get rid of that? And we've travelled the world at Coventry University. Anybody that knows Natalie knows that the fact that she's here today is a bloody miracle. Yeah? She's the one on crutches. When I went to bed last night, she was fine. She says she doesn't know what it was. So yeah, we have things that give us business advantage. But we know John at his university is doing some really good work on graduation. So actually, why don't we work with him and take a little bit of that? And actually, do you know what? We'll stick our hands up and Lucian do something really good around curriculum management, so we will buy that bit. This model happens all the time. It's called an app store. Is that not the way we're going? I tell you now that you can log on to an app store and build a graduation service. E-payments, you can get that. Ticketing system, you can get that. Room booking, you can get that. This is the model we see we're going. But to do this, or to do that, you have to be situationally aware. Absolutely. And why? Student system is a massive system. You can't read this, it's blurry. It's blurry for 2 reasons. One, I'm rubbish at creating slides. The second reason is, it's got a bit of information on there we don't want to share with you. However, I look at you, Carol. However, Natalie created this to start with. I helped a little bit, mainly spelling, it has to be said. And these are all the high-level things that we need to consider. You've taken a photo of it, I can't believe that. These are all the high-level things that you need to consider when you're changing a student record system. All those interactions with the systems, parochial stuff that you have to consider, the people, all those national things, all those returns to HESA and HEFGE and UCAS, all those things that you have to do. Let's take a step back. Potentially, I'm going to make the case that actually the Estates Department have got it right and we can learn from them. I'm comfortable in giving you an example from our Estates Department. I could not have turned up to this conference and said, guys, I want you to go and have a good look at your HR department. They're doing it right. You would have killed me. It could have been worse. I could have said, I'll tell you who's doing it right, the colouring in department, or as they prefer to be known, marketing. Common ground there, isn't there? A lot of common ground there. There's the HR department just turned up. Right, okay. This building here is the Sir William Lyons building in Coventry University, and that's where the IT department are currently based. We are moving. We are central campus. We've run out of space. Anybody that's professional services essentially has been pushed out to the edges. We are moving into this building here, the Alma building. The big, white, shiny building at the end is not the building we're going into. We are going into the Victorian slum on the left-hand side. For anybody that knows Coventry, this is in the Hillfields region. which is the largest red light district in the area. Quite funnily enough, when we spoke to the technical people and said this is where we're moving to, and by the way you need to know, be aware that this is the red light district of Coventry, one of the young technicians who sits in the service room said, what's a red light district? So this is how we explained it to him. We said, you know when you're in your server room and you're looking at that screen, the one that's connected to all the servers and the network, yeah? You know when you get a red light that comes on, yeah? What does that mean? Well, usually it means we're screwed and we're downloading a virus. Yeah, it's very similar. That joke went a lot better than I thought it was going to go. So, we turn up. And we turn up with the estates department. They said, you're moving into this. This is where you're going. And we say, OK, tell us about that. And they say, well, this is the building. This is how it's put together. These are the floors that you're going to occupy. And we can tell you, from the way that the building's laid out, this is how we recommend that all the offices are going to be laid out. We can talk to you about how they're going to look, because there are corporate things that you need to consider. There are health and safety things about the way the desk and how far apart they are, and how the chairs will be, and what type of chairs you've got to have, the certain carpet, and the way the lighting works. This is health and safety stuff that we need to consider. We'll also tell you about the plumbing and the electricity. And we say, well, we don't like that toilet there, can you move it over there? And they say, no. Building regulations will not allow that. Electrical regulations will not allow it because it can't be too near this point, which is a fire exit. There are lots of things that the estates department can tell you. I'm going to say that when somebody turns up to us and talks about our applications and our systems, when we do our change management, are we as situationally aware as the estates department? No, Ian, we're not. OK, these are the things that we need to consider. Talk a little bit about what we do at Coventry. So we got into enterprise architecture a little bit. We use a tool. We use the Biz Design tool. There are other tools available, and if you want to know something about those tools, recently Toby Price gave a webinar, and that webinar is available on the UCISA EA Community Practice Wiki. It's just going to have a look at it. There's some other good stuff on there. Alex Lee did a presentation for us recently as well. This is our ecosystem. This is one of the first things we did. We sort of said, well, what the hell have we got on campus? Now, we recognise in the world that we live in, actually, do you remember the days where it didn't matter if somebody bought something, bought an application, and they still had to come to IT because we had to host it. But we live in a world now where actually people can buy and go into applications because it sits in the cloud. How the hell are we ever going to know about this stuff? So we're saying, look, give us a fighting chance. At least tell us about it. So we've created this high-level ecosystem. And if you haven't done it, it's pretty useful. It's pretty useful for when you're going out to tenders, when you're talking to suppliers and those sort of things. As you're doing change management, it's a checkpoint to see some of the things that you may consider. Once you've done that, you get an understanding of what real enterprise architecture can start to deliver for you. So this is the high-level screen of part of our repository. And if you're going to do EA, you need a repository, let me tell you. And that's part of the problem in terms of the costing. But anyway, what we're aware of is that Coventry University has a strategy. Underneath that are 7 pillars. That's why they turned up that way. I designed this. It's brilliant. Underneath that, we have, and this is an old one, we have the component parts of the group. The CU, London campus, the college, CU enterprises, CU services. Then there's the rules and the governance, things that we quite often miss. And only then do you get down to the things as IT people that we deliver. So let me give you an example. One of the things that we do is we have a strategy, internationalisation, global university. Okay, that means now that we have people all over the world at all times, mostly Natalie. We have a service desk back at Coventry that is open between 8 and 6. If I'm in Australia and I can't log into a system, I've lost my password, my mobile phone doesn't work, that's not very good, is it? I need some support. So we're going to put an operational desk somewhere else in the world. Now, that means that what we're doing is we're starting to support that strategy, so we can put that process in there. We may say that it is only to support the business people, and it might not be for the moment for students, so we can focus on these people. There will be rules and governance over that we need to consider. GDPR, we keep hearing about it. GDPR will be a factor in this because it will be overseas. But it's other things. What about our licensing agreements? Will they work? These are all the things that we need to be situationally aware of. At that level, once we understand all these and what the interactions are, then we consider how we're going to make changes. So how does that look at the lowest level? This is an old... Sorry, this is just to prove to you that we do put stuff in here. These are the things that we put in our repository in terms of rules and governance. At the lowest level, this is an old diagram when we first constructed our finance system. What we're saying here is there are people right at the very top here that we need to consider. Here, these people will use processes. Those processes will consume stuff that is stored in the application. This stuff has to sit on a technical layer. Over here are all the stuff that the finance system is connected to. It's connected to the HR system, so we get paid. It's connected to the student system, so we can collect fees. It is connected to the sports centre, so they can do whatever they do. Online payments, WPM. Got you in. OK. But over here, we're also considering the strategy. What strategies are affected by this? What are the governance policies? With our system that we use, I can click on this here and say if we are going to turn it off, I can tell up there who's going to be affected. That's quite a powerful thing when you're coming to do change. It's making us a bit more situationally aware. We're not quite there yet. We're still building this repository and developing it. Once you know stuff like that, you start looking at the interactions between systems. Interactions between systems. I honestly believe that the makeup of the IT department in a few years' time will be completely different to the way it is now. I think we will be less technically driven. We will be service and product managers. Okay? Because most of it will be farmed out somewhere. What we'll be doing is moving things around. This is the sort of stuff we'll be doing. We'll be connecting people. We'll be connecting data. Data. Haven't we heard a lot about data? Absolutely. Why are we hearing so much about data? Because previously what happened with data, it was said the other day, is that your senior management say to you, we need that bit of data. It goes down the line and somebody gets that data and they do their bit with it, goes to the next person, they do their bit with it, their bit. It's then passed to the senior management and they go, that's the data I was expecting. Every one of us is doing a business intelligence tool at the moment. Probably Tableau. What are our senior management doing now? Refresh, 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 refresh. It is impossible to manipulate data at that rate. They are seeing things for real. That is why data is becoming such an issue and such a pressing matter in our sector, I believe. You've got to be situationally aware about that. I was talking to Andy about it a few minutes ago because I've been having lots of conversations with Alex Lee. I borrowed this slide from him. Not reinventing the wheel. These guys know a lot more about data than I do. They've talked to you about the difference, about how there is a disconnect between data and our organisations and understanding the value of it. The fact that we still silo data, we own it. The fact that it's not aligned. The fact that there is no plan for data in your organisation. If you talk to Alex Lee, he will tell you that EA is one of the only ways that you are only going to be able to understand data going forward. So, talked about it a bit earlier. Somewhere we are all on this model. We are farming bits of what we do out to other people. Again, we will be doing this thing where I say, I have an application stored here, I have an application stored here. I've got this new application here, I need to connect things. I don't host these anymore. What I'm doing is I'm the puppet master that's joining these things together. To do that effectively, you need to be situationally aware. This was the premise of the stuff that I talked about last year. Again, all of us are doing something around services. Need to take a drink, sorry. Hot, sweaty bloke in a hot, sweaty room. I shouldn't have worn polyester. That's the problem. In terms of services, we're all doing something around services. Service management is big in our sector. So it should be. It's because now we have customers. We don't have students anymore. If you ask what is the business view to most of the people in your department, they won't care. They won't care what the people are doing, what business processes they're running. And to be fair, the users They don't care what you guys are doing. So if you walk down through your IT department, that's a problem, isn't it? There's a real disconnect between the things that you're delivering and the business processes that help support the strategy. At this level, there's a real problem, because there is a huge disconnect. The people that work at the infrastructure level don't get out much. I'm going to give you an example. The two people from Coventry will know who this guy is, and they will tell you that I really like him and respect him. But he's an infrastructure person. We had a problem with our bulk email. People were sending out bulk emails. And one or two web providers were saying, do you know what, we keep getting these and people are telling us it's spam and we might have to block you. And that would be a problem for a university. And this infrastructure guy came to senior management and said, I've got a way of dealing with that. I'm going to turn it off. And we went, no, you cannot turn it off. We know it's a problem. But how do you know that HLS, who have a strategic goal that's linked to one of the strategic strategies to recruit more from the NHS in terms of occupational therapists and physiotherapists and nurses, aren't doing a major recruitment drive at the moment? I can solve your bulk email problem. I'm going to turn it off. No, you can't do that. And we see that more and more. This is the model that you're looking for. In terms of the thing I showed earlier about the finance system, there is a model that gives you a vision from top to bottom. I use document management because this is the slide I used last year, but from the business processes, the application, to the infrastructure. Your users are never going to be bothered about the infrastructure, so don't worry about that. But here, what we're saying to everybody in IT, you need to understand the service from top to bottom. EA makes you situationally aware. There are advantages. Once you understand all the things that you do, you understand the service. If you understand the service, you manage the service. You can apply ownership. If somebody comes to me and said, Ian, you are now the service owner for this, I want to know everything that's contained within that. If I do that, if I understand the whole service, I can identify costs. If I just said to you, go away and map the cost potentially linked to your finance system, I'm expecting it wouldn't be as detailed as the thing that I showed you and you would have missed things. It allows you to identify that. It allows you to plan enhancements holistically, not parochially. All that thing around change. It allows you to monitor the service. This is important. This is the service. Historically in IT, the application, has been the service. We need to get away from that. If you map the whole service, that when you come to put agents on all the parts of the bits that affect the service, you are monitoring the whole service. We're trialling this at the moment. So in terms of our document management system, we've identified all the agents, all the component parts, and we can now put agents on that, and we get a better understanding of what and how that process and that service is being offered to our customers. Nearly at the end of this part of my presentation, you'll be glad to know. So, change people. These are the change drivers. These are something we recognise. We need to understand the impact of when we're going to make changes. We need to understand all the cost dimensions, and this allows us to understand then what our ROI, what our change benefits will be. Okay? This is what we do all the time. Coventry University, I think, has one of the biggest BA functions. I lead it. We've got about 9 members of staff in there. That's going to grow, okay? Because that's just the way things are going. Again, it's going to be service managers. Why do we need that? Some people say to us, well, if you have loads of BAs, they're only creating work and you haven't got enough developers down the line. But part of it is we're using developers elsewhere. We're using applications that are hosting the clouds and the suppliers doing all that work for us. If you accept that model, then something, and I'm saying it's enterprise architecture, needs to sit at the heart of that. For you to be situationally aware, you need something that is going to pull all that information together, give you the right set of data so you can make those changes effectively. So ask yourself these questions. Have I sold it to you? What function do you have that has the capability to define the relationships between all aspects of the business? Do you know and have documented your IT ecosystem? How are you managing your IT governance and reflecting that? How have you embedded master data management? Do you know and understand your data flows? Do you know the interdependencies between all your systems? If you haven't, you need something that's going to help you do that. Because if you're not, you are not going to manage your change effectively. Or it's just going to be hard work. You'll be constantly doing analysis. Change is a constant. Unfreeze, change, refreeze. I'm saying to help that, I think you need enterprise architecture. Okay, it wasn't like that when I looked at the slides this morning. Not quite sure what's happened there. That's you guys, thanks. Establishing enterprise architecture. Okay, I've tried to sell it. If I have not sold enterprise architecture, please leave. The rest of this presentation will be of no use to you. And it's a short bit. You might want to stay anyway. As I say, I lead up the community for enterprise architecture for UCISA. What do I know? What I know is, really, that we have 200 registered people on the Dismail site. On average, we get 1 new request to join each week for the last 3 months, and we have approximately 85 universities represented. But I know it's difficult to generate chatter on the forum. There's only 18 responses to the EA survey that we put out, and only 30 attendees at our last free event. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. On the survey, 18 responses. I could have probably picked 16 of those universities straight away. I need to just say it was 18 universities as well as 18 responses. I didn't want you to think that loads of people from the same university responded. 13 of those responded had architect in the job title, which is interesting because we are recruiting data architects and solution architects. One of the things that they are telling me is, I think within UCISA, within the HE community, the college community, we don't have a home. So they've come and gravitated toward the EA group. And that's something we're going to need to consider. One of the things going forward, I'm not quite sure how we change the terms of reference for these things. And I'll need to talk to UCISA about that. But potentially we need to create a home for all these architects. And I'm happy that they may fall under the Enterprise Architect banner. 17 were based in the IT department. This is important. Actually, EA should not be in IT. EA should be at your strategic planning level. However, it needs to get established in our sector. We are the greenhouse at the moment that is cultivating that. If it wasn't in IT, then it wouldn't have a home, I don't believe. And it wouldn't have a support base like UCISA around it. Only 4 universities use EA to assist with the organisation's strategic roadmap, but 10 use it to assist with the strategic IT roadmap. It's growing. People are recognising its importance. But the main restrictions to the development of EA, and what happened was I went round and I phoned people. When they don't respond to the surveys, when they don't come to the events, I ask them, because you have to be proactive in these things. The same things come back, lack of senior management buy-in, lack of resources. When I phoned people and said, you spoke to me that you might be interested in coming to the event, you didn't turn up, why? Couldn't get the travel costs. Couldn't get the travel costs to come to this free event. It was talking about linking our information systems, about how data will flow around it. People from CITIS and Alex Lee and other universities doing demonstrations of the work they're doing. Why? Why would you not come to this free event? This is my summary of where I think we're at. Enterprise architecture continues to grow, but slowly within the sector. There is a growing acknowledgement of its presence, but not its potential. There are some front runners, but many, I believe, still struggling to get out the blocks. It's expensive. I think there is a cost to doing EA. Seen as costly and resource intensive to get up and running, that's what I mean. It is still predominantly seen as only an IT thing. I can live with that, as I've already said. In many places, it is used operationally rather than strategically. People will do EA mapping for each of their projects. What they're not doing is they're not doing it strategically. They are not making themselves situationally aware. I shall try and not use that phrase again. That is the model that I think we should have within our IT department. So people are recruiting solution architects and network architects and data architects and business architects. But at the top is the enterprise architect. The enterprise architect sits over that and creates the rules for which all these others should operate in. That's how it should be structured. If you're a solution architect and you don't have a data architect, I'm not sure the solution architect can do their job properly. Or are they expected to do some of this or all of this? We need to think about that. We need to think about how we're going to be structured going forward. Right, nearly done. I'm trying to get right up to the 45 minutes so I don't have to take questions. So, what can the UCISA EA-CAP do to assist? Let me tell you. CISG-PCMG coming together, for us, is a little bit like the planets aligning. In terms of CISG, you look after the applications. You do the interdependencies. You manage those data flows. PCMG, you help these guys manage change. Do they CISG? Don't know. Don't answer that question. But that's what they should be doing. Okay. I'm saying, well, EA, poor cousin over here, I think we can help you. Okay, but there's a problem. You guys are mature. Information systems, you've been around since the birth of computing. PCMG, I know Mark told us yesterday that PCMG have only been around for 4 years, but actually, project management, business analysis, that's been around for longer in our sector. It's growing. You don't need to sell it. EA needs selling. Ooh, I think I can help you. Previously, what happened with JISC is they put money into enterprise architecture. Is there anybody from JISC in the room? I can say what I want to say. I think one of the problems with JISC is, or certainly the way they were structured previously was, they put money into things, they ran those things, and then you fell out the end of it and nothing went on. This happened with EA. Lots of money went into enterprise architecture. There was no support for people at the end. They fell out. There's people in this room that I know were part of the JISC EA initiative. We recognised that, 1 or 2 people, Luke Taylor, John Townsend, myself, we created the COP. But it came too late. So, EA will continue to grow. Architect functions will continue to grow. And I'm going to say to you, in 10 years' time, you're all invited to our conference, because it will be bigger than your conference. However, how about this? How about we come together as a community, recognise that enterprise architecture, if we've sold it to you, is something that is going to assist you. I've spoken to JISC. JISC are looking again at enterprise architecture. Why? Because they have 9 colleges in Northern Ireland that have been told, you guys need to use shared services. And they see enterprise architecture as the way of helping to deliver that. Potentially, they might fund something again. This time, the COP is there, hopefully, to catch those people. CISG, PCMG, under the banner UCISA, said, yeah, we can use EA, and tell us what your needs are, tell us how we should be structured, what do you need to support that? Are we not becoming then greater than the sum of our parts? The final thing I'll say to that is actually, we need to put some resource into it. I am not making a claim for a job here. I'm perfectly happily travelling the world with Nat. Okay, I'm perfectly happy travelling the world. There has to be some resource into that. Imagine how much we could do if there was, for instance, a consultant for the 18 months who was employed by all of us to come into your universities to run workshops, to tell us how to do EA, to sell the importance of that and help it get it established. There's training by JISC, the support here, PCMG, CISG, under the banner UCISA, working to deliver something, again, greater than the sum of our parts. I think it's a model that could work. There is a proposal that I'm drawing up with the likes of Alex Lee, John Townsend, consultant with Luke Taylor, about how that might work, how that might look. What I said is, I've been asked to come to this conference, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the people there, is that something you want? I don't want an answer now. I'm not going to pass around the plate and ask for money. But please, if you think that's something you want, then contact me. Let me know. Let me know how that might work for you, what sort of support you want, how you think that should be structured. We will then build that into our proposal and give that to the people that we think that matter and might be able to make a difference for us. Okay, I think I'm done. Thanks for your time.